What's up guys? Today we're going to be checking out 1993's Last Action Hero on 4K Blu-ray. This is not a review on the movie itself, I'm just going to share some of my thoughts on the audio and the video quality. Before we get into it, if you're new to the channel and you're into movies and home theater, be sure to tap the subscribe button for new weekly videos. Now let's go over a few tech specs. The movie was shot on 35mm. It's got a 4K DI. It's rated PG-13. Runtime is 120 minutes, and the aspect ratio is 239:1, so it's got black letterbox bars. Here we have yet another catalog transfer from Sony. Of course, Dolby Atmos didn't exist back in 1993, but for this newly remastered transfer, we do get an updated Atmos mix. Jumping into the Atmos Viewer in Chapter 3, there's a part where Slater lands his car on the top of the truck. You can see how the yellow objects start shifting from top to bottom, so it does actually sound like the car is coming from above your head. In Chapter 9, there's a helicopter that's about to start shooting. You'll hear it come circling around from the left and start spraying bullets within the lower channels. If you couldn't tell, the objects do move around instead of staying static. During the quieter non-action scenes, you can see that every speaker is still active with some light ambiance that moves about the room. It's very light, but does expand on the soundstage. Another interesting scene is the rooftop in Chapter 14. It's a rainy scene, so you're gonna hear rain coming from all directions. But they only mixed the rain effects in the top rear speakers, while the fronts were silent. Seemed like a strange choice, but overall, it did sound pretty good. Now, even though most of the channels were very active, it's only some ambiance or musical extension. There are some occasional bullets that pan through the lower channels, and a couple chopper flybys. But I found it mostly to be light and didn't sound as dynamic as I thought it was going to be. Also keep in mind that the sound effects are from decades ago, so they can sound kind of flat. They don't have the same presence as something mixed today. As for bass response, there wasn't much in that department. I think most of the bass you're going to get is from Slater's gun. Every time he shoots it, you do get a solid punch from the subwoofers. There's parts where you'd think there'd be a ton of bass like this crash, but my subs barely did anything.
No one likes a smart ass.
Now this is a Sony 4K transfer, so I had some high hopes for it, and it doesn't disappoint. I will say that this is a nice upgrade from the older Blu-ray for sharpness and color. Most of the scenes that take place in daylight or anytime not in the dark can look as if it was shot today. Detail and clarity in the close-ups were pretty crisp. It's not digital 4K crisp, but it's close. You can count the strands of hair on Arnie's head and see all the man's pores. His leather jacket looks to have much better tonal shades and better texture. I'd say it's almost suede-like. Now, every shot isn't gonna look pristine. The movie was shot on film, so there is a very light to heavy layer of grain throughout. The brighter scenes will have the lightest grain most of the time, while the darker ones are gonna be the heaviest. I'd say if you're a grain hater, you're probably not gonna mind it because it is light for the most part. As for HDR, I thought it gave the color palette a slight boost in saturation, but was mainly natural looking. It's also a bright transfer, unlike some movies where the HDR makes the image dim. I found that bright peak highlights could come across a little too hot. You'll see it from some bright reflections on faces or lights or explosions. I suppose them being in a fictional movie in a movie kind of works visually. Black levels look deeper than the older Blu-ray and offers up some good contrast to make the image pop more. During the dimmer shots, I found some of the darker areas to be somewhat murky and grainy, and it's in these dimmer scenes that you'll see the heaviest layers of grain. So for video, I'm gonna give it an 8.6. This is a clean, bright, sharply detailed Sony transfer. It's a great upgrade from the older Blu-ray and shows you how good a 4K upgrade from 1080p can look. For audio, I'm gonna go with a 7.9. This is more expansive sounding in all directions from the older mix, so your high channels are gonna have something to do. There's some decent sound movement here and there, and the bass response was pretty light for a big action movie. Still, it does follow what you're seeing on screen properly, and the music I thought was one of the best parts of the mix. I'd say if you haven't seen this movie before or you have the older disc, that this is a worthy upgrade and worth picking up. Plus, Arnold's got a ton of one-liners in this one. So tell us your thoughts on Last Action Hero on 4K Blu-ray. Leave a comment down below and let us know. Now, if you want to grab this disc, I'll leave some links for it down below in the video's description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you want, you can follow us on social media. And if you want to support the channel and get exclusive content or great discounts on audio and video gear, then stop by our Patreon page. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys again in the next video.